Happy week 173. I mean, I don't know how happy it is for some of you, but I think a lot of people are freaking out about this mayoral election, thinking that all of a sudden their life just got more expensive because they love to regurgitate sound bites about, oh, Olivia Chow is going to raise taxes as if she has control over federal, provincial, and municipal taxing all of a sudden, which is not true. So, welcome to the basement of my home because you know what? I'm getting my car cleaned. Our babysitter canceled today, so I got my daughter upstairs. There's a lot of shit going on right now, so we're here at the house. But let's talk about the market. But we all kind of woke up to a new mayor today. So, how do we feel about that? You all know how I feel about that. Like my number one candidate is Chloe Brown. It's really nice to see that she did get a ton of votes. And I think that she does have a really bright future in politics if she chooses to pursue it. And I really, really hope she does. But I'm really confused as to why most people who don't have two nickels to even rub together are like, don't go Olivia Chow, don't do that. It's going to make your life more expensive. But really, it's very obvious that a lot of people haven't bothered to actually dig into any of the mayoral candidates' platforms before spewing off all kinds of nonsense, which is usually just a regurgitated meme from some sort of website or Facebook or Instagram or something like that. But honestly, we'll get into the market talk in a moment, but just to quickly talk about what Olivia Chow's platform is. And again, like I feel like out of all the other candidates next to Chloe Brown, she might have been the next best choice. Definitely when you consider lunatics like Chris Sky and things like that out there. Somebody last week mentioned that I was insulting people. I don't remember insulting anybody, but when somebody comes forward with ridiculous ideas and really no basis for any of their ranting and raving, you're going to get called out. So if I'm an asshole for that, then so be it, I guess. But anyway, so Olivia Chow, I don't know how you can argue with these things, right? So she's got a plan to build affordable housing on city-owned land with the city as the developer. So you do understand the big difference, right? So remember, we're talking about people that actually need help. We're not talking about making it easier for developers to build and all that kind of thing, because the moment there's a third party, there's a developer involved, then really the affordability conversation kind of goes out the window because developers are in it to profit, which I don't blame them for at all. Like, you go get your money, man. Like that's what we all do every single day. But at the same time, you can't talk about affordability and the private for-profit sector at the same time. It's really difficult. So Olivia Chow has a good plan to use city-owned land with the city as a developer, which is the huge distinction here, to build a lot of affordable housing and geared to income housing. So that is a good step. And I don't know how you can be against that. And remember, we're talking about helping the people that need the actual help, not helping me. I don't need any more help. You probably don't need any more help. And of course, there are varying degrees of people's situations, but let's talk about the people that need the most help right now. So, another very interesting thing that Olivia Chow mentioned was the part of her platform is to provide some sort of ability for the city of Toronto to have the first right of refusal on any land or building sales, which is interesting because as a property owner, I'm not leaving anything on the table because it's not like I have to it's being expropriated and sold at under market value or some sort of arbitrary amount that we don't really know what the market value is. You can go through your full tender process on this property. You might not get as many people to the table, I guess. So that is something to consider, knowing that the city of Toronto can just scoop in and meet and match that best offer and take the property. But at the same time, I mean, if we're really concerned about us, the landowners and things like that, well, there shouldn't really be a concern in this scenario because market value will be paid for your property. But that's a very interesting thing that I didn't really pay attention to before. And then, of course, helping renters get into keep a roof over their head. Now, here's the thing that could affect a lot of small time landlords, one or two single unit owner type people, where, as you know, it's already insanely difficult to remove a problematic tenant. Like, it's not something that is possible. very easily within a year. Right now, the way the landlord-tenant board works, remember, that's a provincial entity. So all that Olivia Chow and the municipal government can do is lobby and pressure the provincial government to do whatever it is they need to do to make life on tenants a lot easier. But at the same time, I think that needs to be a very careful dance, because I don't believe that life should be made easier for tenants to abuse the system. But unfortunately, it's very hard to differentiate between who's abusing the system and who actually needs help. And a lot of single unit investors get damaged along the way. And I know, for folks that are even having trouble keeping a roof over their head, hearing that a landlord who has a second property might be negatively affected, is not something you would even ever care about. But at the same time, it can affect people beyond just losing that property and all the money associated with it. It can have long-lasting effects on their family and their future and the next generation. So it is an important consideration. So we'll have to see what happens there with the pressure that the municipal government puts on the Doug Ford provincial government. But again, looking at Olivia Chow's platform to raise the vacant property tax from 1% to 3%, again, does not affect most people, and you shouldn't care about that. And then the only ambiguous thing that is in this platform is the potential increase to property taxes, where the only thing Olivia Chow has said is that my modest increase that I'm going to propose will be nowhere near the 25% increase that some other candidates are proposing. That's what she said. So we'll see what that is. But considering how low our property taxes are in general, even when compared to like Durham, which is right there, I don't see that as being something that the majority of homeowners cannot absorb. At the end of the day. And if not, it's not going to be one giant increase off the bat. Any sort of increase that's being discussed here will be a graduated increase over time. More specifically, the proposal to increase the land transfer tax on luxury homes. Now, there is an actual specific definition on what this means. Again, this does not affect most of you listening to this. And if it does, you can probably afford it, because we're talking about graduating in higher land transfer taxes starting at $3 million, then $5 million, then $20 million. How many of you are buying $3, $5, and $20 million homes? If you are, that's awesome. I should be your agent. But at the same time, the stuff that we're talking about here does not affect the majority of Torontonians. So we need to stop pretending that having a left-leaning politician as mayor is going to somehow make life expensive for everybody. This stuff is going to help the people that need the most help. I mean, luckily Olivia Chow is even talking about Scarborough, which no real other candidate is. Well, unless you're Kevin Clark, but that guy, I don't know. But anyway, so, the RT is going to be shutting down. So just making sure that there's some sort of quick and efficient transit available for Scarbarians as well. So there's a lot of stuff that she's doing that I completely agree with, but I just felt like all levels of government need a refreshing change. But at the same time, at the municipal level, we've been under the Tory leadership for a while. So anyway, what we have here is, I think, good for the people that need the most help in the city of Toronto. Does it go far enough like Chloe Brown would have? I don't think so, but perhaps this is the stepping stone we need before we get somebody like a Chloe Brown in office to actually make some real deep down change that I'm confident she can make. So anyway, let's put this increasing taxes, regurgitating soundbite bullshit behind us, please, because honestly, it's getting a little bit tiresome to hear, and it's summer. Let's just chill about that a little bit. So inflation numbers came out this morning as well. It's Tuesday, June 27th today, by the way, in case you don't know. Also, happy birthday to Mila, who is the spring team's firstborn agent and one of the new leadership team on the spring team. So congratulations to her for that, as well as it's her birthday today. So if you know her, send her a birthday message. Anyway, inflation numbers came out this morning, 3.4%, which is a dramatic difference from last month's increase to 4.4% from 4.3% the month before. But this year is going to be heavily affected from base rate. So base rate is so last year in May last year, it's when the Russian invasion of Ukraine was a massive thing, and it created a lot of uncertainty around energy prices. So it spiked, gas and energy costs across the board, making that stuff very, very expensive last year. So when compared to that unnaturally high month last year, we're naturally going to have a big drop to this year. So that was a huge contributor to this to this lower inflation number of 3.4%. And remember, the target rate is around 2. So seeing something in the threes is actually really encouraging for the first time in a while, and hopefully will have some influence on July's interest rate announcement, which a lot of people think is going to be another rate hike in July. And honestly, I just don't want to eat as much shit as I did last month, or when I made the prediction that it wasn't going to be increased, because I still don't think that it should have. And if you did read the Benjamin Tull report from CIBC, they kind of agreed with what I was saying, and it was based on what an AI model would have done. So go back to last week's report and check that out, because it's really, really interesting. So overall, inflation numbers did come in as expected, lower. But it doesn't seem to be affecting what might happen with the interest rate announcement in July, because most people do think that there is going to be another increase. But listen, the heat's already been taken out of the market. Like looking at inventory, people are selling. There's a lot of people, especially investors, that are not willing to absorb the monthly cash flow situation that they have right now because of these higher rates. So they are selling their properties, but there's no panic selling happening again. If you look at the condo numbers, average numbers have maintained relatively stable. Sales have decreased a little bit, but when we're looking at the inventory, that's the real number that we have to look at. We're approaching 2,000 units for sale. And if you've been following this blog for a long time, you know that 2,000 units is that threshold between some balance and really swinging into the favor of the buyer. So if you're a condo buyer, you should see some more opportunities approaching now, if not now, in the coming weeks. But again, those opportunities come with increased carrying costs with higher interest rates. So make sure that you have your pre-approvals locked in to protect from any rate hikes along the way. So, I don't know, like long story short, I mean, we all know that the Toronto real estate market is going to be fine long term. We all know that these high interest rates are not going to be here to stay at this level for a massively, extended amount of time. I do believe, and so do many other leading economists, that there will be some downward pressure on rates as we head into 2024. So again, like right now, things might not feel so great. If you own property, your costs have likely gone up and you're really feeling the pinch. Now is the time to start saving some money in places you would otherwise go nuts around this time of year. Maybe don't take that extra vacation this year. Maybe do some more staycationing this year, just to hedge against any prolonged period of this interest rate environment. Luckily I was able to negotiate a mortgage which did not have a fluctuating payment. My payments haven't changed this entire time. I engaged this mortgage in the summer of 2021, and my payments are the same. I'm not paying anything down in my principal, but at the same time, a lot of other people in the same boat as I am. So again, these interest rates do not reflect everybody's situation in terms of affecting their monthly cash flow. But we do have a very real situation coming in 2025, 2026 and onward as people renew their ultra low rates they locked in over the past couple of years. So it'll be very interesting to see where rates move in the next couple of years as these renewals come up. And some people challenged me last week saying, oh, do I have a crystal ball, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, the Canadian government, the provincial government, and the municipal government have a vested interest in making sure that the real estate market is relatively stable long term, and they're going to work together to make sure that these rates do come down to a reasonable level. And of course, they're going to level out in a range much higher than what we were used to during the extreme low months in early COVID and onward. But at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, they will still settle somewhere extremely low. And with the banks working with amortizations and things like that, it's not going to be as dramatic a situation where the market is just flooded with all of these properties. And all of those opportunists that are praying for the market to crash, I mean, it's such a funny place for your head to be, because usually when the people that are praying for the market to crash the most are the people that are not at all in a position to take advantage of a down market. most investors who know economics 101 understand that when markets are crashing to the point where something that was unaffordable is now in an affordable range, you're not insulated from that economic turmoil that caused that crash. You're not going to all of a sudden be in a position where only you can all of a sudden get some mortgage at a rate that was around a year before. Like, prices don't just come down because they're high. They're going to come down because rates are skyrocketing or some other economic issue that's probably going to affect you. So wishing for the market to crash is just not smart. Like, you're not going to be in a position to take advantage of that because, how do you feel when the market's going down? Do you know when the bottom is? Most people are thinking they're using the mentality that they would have in an up market. They somehow think that they would maintain that mindset in the down market, where when the market's going down and you have such a huge asset to consider, there is nothing more terrifying than the idea that that asset will be devalued immediately after you make that purchase. So at the same time, it's just not a reasonable thought process and not a productive one to get you towards that ultimate goal of buying an investment property or buying a home or whatever it is. There is a much more productive way to spend your time if that's to understand how far your money will go in a different market to help you get back to the market you really want to be in over time. And that's a story that I've told about myself over and over and over again. Like in 2016 to 17, I made some very bad investments in my business and it did not work very well. I had to sell my house and things were not good in that scenario. So after a year or so of really not being able to afford to get back into the Toronto market, I looked elsewhere. There was an opportunity in Parry Sound. And in Parry Sound, I bought this rundown cottage for around $200 and something thousand on a lake that nobody really paid much attention to. I fixed it up with about $9,000 that I had saved, and I had saved $20,000 to be able to make that purchase. So let's get one thing straight. If you can't put together about 20 grand, you're not going to be a buyer anywhere. So, I put together that 20 grand, bought that cottage, spent another 9 on a basic renovation to add a new kitchen and change the floors, and then rented it out on Airbnb for a summer and enjoyed it 1 or 2 weekends ourselves. Again, having no money, all of it going into this property. A year and a half later, I was able to sell the property for somewhere around $350 and change thousand. That bump in price allowed me to take that money that I made from that cottage and put it into a pre-construction condo, which allowed me to kind of slowly save up that deposit, which was beyond the cash that I had available. That pre-construction condo became our home. It's where we lived during COVID. After COVID, we sold that condo I bought that condo for $831,000 pre-construction, and I sold it for $1.1 million. Selling it for $1.1 million allowed us to get into this house that we're in today, which, as some of you know, we tried to sell this house a couple of months ago, and we just didn't get an offer that made sense. So we kept it, and we're going to put it out on Airbnb for short-term rentals, and we're going to do something with ourselves that's more exciting. So there is a path. It might not be Parry Sound anymore because those properties have also gotten very expensive, but it could be another place. It could be in another province. It could be in Calgary. It could be in Winnipeg. It could be in Montreal. It could be in Vancouver. It could be anywhere else. But the idea that just because you can't afford to buy a city in the place your parents did or the place that you live doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking elsewhere to start on the ladder so you can get back to where you really want to be eventually. Sometimes it's going to happen fast and sometimes it's going to happen slower depending on what the market is. But there are opportunities and there are options. So let's not worry too much about what's happening today. Let's try and shed that day trader mentality and let's go make some moves. Like, optimists will always win. Pessimists will usually lose and have a really terrible time while they do it. At least an optimist, when we lose, at least we're having a good time while we're doing it. Anyway, life's too damn short to be all nitpicky and worried about some stuff we don't even understand. So let's just go forth and conquer. And I'll see you in week 174. Out. Let's go. Have a good one, everybody.